Salam. Salam Al-Marayati heads up the Muslim Public Affairs Council. This is our second appearance this week together, unfortunately, because of the Brussels tragedy. And I want to thank him for joining with us that next morning when we stood together to let people know the role that they could play in making this city safer. And you certainly have been a huge partner in that. I want to thank you and turn the microphone over to you.
Thank you. Well, first, let me just say, as an introduction, I walked in here and I felt some suspicion. And it's not because I'm a Muslim, but it's because I'm a graduate of UCLA.
Great for you.
So, but in all seriousness, I think both the Secretary and the Mayor, and I think all of us really are onto something, that we cannot win with a them versus us mentality. That there are those who are on their side, the visitors, the rival, and then there's the home team. And when the home team commits acts of violence, it's our guys. But when they commit acts of violence, then it's an international crisis. So we need to all be on the same team in effective counterterrorism policy. We cannot be fighting each other. As the Secretary said, that's exactly what ISIS wants. They see this as a war between Islam and the West. And the more you fuel that rhetoric, the more you play into their hands. And our biggest problem, honestly, as American Muslims, is we're just having a tough time getting our voices heard. Everywhere you go, they say, what we just heard from you is great. You condemn terrorism. Why are we not hearing that enough? We had a rally with the mayor, 1,000 civic leaders, and coming out against extremism and violence. It was not heard. It didn't register. We need to figure out ways to work together in amplifying the moderate voice. The moderate voice is the voice of Nahla Kayali, who's here from Access, who deals with refugees and resettling them in developing positive identity formation integrated into American society. The positive voice is when we are with Rabbi Sharon Brous in forming Muslim-Jewish partnerships in Los Angeles, that we will not allow the politics of the Middle East to divide us. It will redouble our efforts to come up with solutions. Then we amplify the moderate voice against ideological extremism that uses religion for legitimacy. That ISIS represents cruelty, Islam represents mercy. That ISIS represents destructive behavior, Islam says to go and build a civilization. That ISIS says we are going to intimidate anyone who disagrees with us, whereas Islam says repel evil with good so that the one with whom there is some enmity becomes as if he is your closest and warmest friend. So that voice that is based on exposing the moral bankruptcy of ISIS and bolstering the voice of mainstream communities who are working. Just down the street, for example, there is a free medical clinic that was developed by Muslim doctors called Clinic. There are people engaged in civic engagement every day. We are hearing sermons in mosques and Muslim conventions against extremism. If we can partner with them and amplify that voice, I think that would be a good step in saying that we are united against terrorism. We will not be divided by terrorists or any kind of hate mongering.
If I could underscore something that Salam just said, because I think it's a real lesson or message for all of us. It's becoming, in a time where we have so much information that is just swirling around us in ways that were unimaginable even a decade ago. It's become harder and harder for moderate, reasonable voices to be heard. Think about it. The way you get eyes or ears is to be provocative, even extreme, to say things that are going to draw attention. That'll get you invited back. Or that'll get you more, responses to whatever it is you're posting. And I don't think this is a trivial issue. Because you hear as I do all the time. People saying, well, why don't American Muslims speak out? They do. They do. In many different ways. Why aren't they given platforms then for their voices to be heard, at least to counteract the more extreme voices that get an audience anytime they desire? I want to reinforce this fundamental point that was just made. We've got to do a better job, which is one of the reasons why the mayor and I are here, and we have, thankfully, a lot of media here. We want to do a better job using our platform to elevate the voices and the views and the activities of those who are living this every single day. But I would just ask all of us to think how we can do more of that. After this gathering is over and we all go our separate ways, how do we keep lifting up the voices of those who are on the front lines and part of the common defense? And I certainly will look for good ideas about how to do that, and will try to contribute the best I can, but this has to be a conscious effort by every aspect of society so that we do amplify the voices that you were not only describing, but you are a leader of.
Well, I think the key word is partnership, and partnership in this particular issue requires that law enforcement is dealing with the criminal justice side of it, whereas community is dealing with the ideological, social, religious side. There's a division of labor. And so that healthy partnership where communities are treated as partners, not as suspect communities, is critical in moving forward. And we have to realize that it has worked. 1 out of 6 terrorist plots have been foiled because a community member stepped forward and informed law enforcement when something was wrong. And we have to build on that. And we have to allow people that safe space. We have a Safe Spaces program that is about prevention and community-led intervention program. So we have to allow that feeling that when they meet with law enforcement, or when they meet with local government and federal law enforcement, that there's that feeling that we are working together on this, that we're not working against a community, but more importantly, that we're working together against ISIS online radicalization of people. The mosques are not the centers of radicalization. The mosques are the asset. Mosques are our strengths. The mosque is where we can leverage community leaders to tell the mother or the father or the brother or the sister, if when they know something is wrong, I'm not going to be able to tell. Nobody around this table can detect that. But when somebody who is dealing with that family member or that close friend or somebody they're mentoring, they know when something is wrong. They know where to turn to for services. And it becomes a mental, public, religious health issue. So we have to convert from looking at it purely as a criminal justice matter to a public health matter. And I learned that from Father Gregory Boyle. When we sat down, we were talking about gang violence prevention and violent extremism, and we're looking basically at the same thing. When people feel they don't belong, they look to other causes. And we have to be able to intervene and rehabilitate that person rather than force them into either incarceration or go join a violent extremist group abroad. But again, we have to understand that what has happened in the last 20 years, even before 9/11, more Muslims have joined the Marines than have joined international groups. More Muslims are now part of our homeland security apparatus as analysts, as translators, as strategists, than those who go and support foreign groups abroad. More Muslims are involved in saving lives as doctors than they are committing acts of terrorism here. And that understanding, that framework is so critical in approaching this problem, so that helps us amplify this voice. That helps us develop a multiplier effect. Let me just end by saying that we have to see that American Muslims are part of the solution. When we see that American Muslims are part of the solution, that sizes ISIS down. that puts them in their place, that they are nothing more than a mafia and criminals that use the veneer of religion to support their cruel, barbaric practices. And their aim is to terrorize us. So we should say once and for all, we will not be terrorized. We will prevail over terrorism together in a united front. And for those who exploit the situation here in the United States politically, all I have to say is, well, as they say, haters going to hate. We got to get over it and move on and work together with more solutions. This program that we're talking about here, the LA framework, the Boston and Minnesota framework, are models of community partnerships, of empowering communities, and that's the way we should view them. Not, let's go talk to the people so that they can root out their radicals. The radicals are being told, detach yourself from the mosque. Detach yourself from the family. That's what a lone wolf is. And in part, that's because the mosques have rejected the ideology of Al-Qaeda and ISIS, because we feel that America is our home. Home is not where my grandparents are buried. Home is where my grandchildren are going to be raised.